Thank you for your patience. Article 31, please, Mrs. O'Donoghue.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move to appropriate the sum of $2,250,000 from free cash to pay the costs of the purchase of approximately 15.16 acres of land at 5 Campanelli Drive and the private way known as Campanelli Drive, shown as Lot 3 and Campanelli Drive, on a plan entitled Definitive Subdivision Plan, River Road Business Center, Andover, Massachusetts, dated February 5th, 1986, drawn by Bradford Seifetz and Associates, Inc., which plan is recorded with the Essex North Registry of Deeds as plan number 10256, and which plan is on file with the Town Clerk's Office and is further shown on Assessor's Map 142, Lot 6, and to authorize the Selectmen to acquire the foregoing land by gift, option, purchase, or eminent domain upon terms and conditions deemed by the Board of Selectmen to be in the best interest of the town and all other costs incidental and related thereto.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Donoghue. The Article 31 has been moved and seconded. Mr. Flanagan, go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. If we could just cue up the presentation, Tom. As they queue up the presentation, I'll begin my opening remarks. First and foremost, I want to take an opportunity to thank the community. Over the past 6 months, we've had robust and engaging dialogue around not only the future of our issue that is Town Yard, but really what is our vision in Andover as we move forward as a community. I've had an opportunity to meet with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of you, from our residents to our business community, to those who actually work and live on River Road. We've had wonderful meetings, really getting their input, and I wanted to put that out there up front because tonight's presentation is a product of that input and responsive to the thoughts of so many who've contributed to what I believe to be a comprehensive proposal for town meeting's consideration. There will be 3 articles. I'll speak on each of them individually. Article 31, the acquisition of 5 Campanelli Drive. Article 2, as it reads in the Finance Committee report, municipal services facility design. That's really 2 things. It's to fund the design and then expand our capital capacity to fund the construction. And then lastly, Article 33, which is a home rule petition that will provide the town with the opportunity to mitigate impact to residents and taxpayers. Article 31, acquisition of 5 Campanelli Drive. I'll talk very quickly about the site that is 5 Campanelli Drive. It's approximately 15.16 acres of land, as Chairwoman O'Donoghue mentioned. Of that 15.16 acres, approximately 7 are buildable. That's double what we currently have at 11 Lewis Street, and provides the town with an opportunity to consolidate services that are now spread out across town. Having that 8 extra acres actually provides us with a significant opportunity to do what is so important, and I really think the hallmark of this plan, which is to provide a buffering opportunity. It is our goal that our new municipal services facilities, out of sight, out of mind, you won't see it from River Road, you may not see it from Campanelli Drive. And that 8 acres of extra space will provide us with the opportunity to do that. In addition, it provides potential access to open space in the Merrimack River. As we'll see in a subsequent slide, the town has a right-of-way that's known as the Heffron right-of-way now that gets you very close to the river, and then there's a small link that we still need to figure out, and we're working very hard to figure that link out, which will provide us access to the river and to a lot of our conservation land that the town already owns. And then lastly, it provides us with an opportunity to have a true partnership beyond the great partnership we already have with the Greater Lawrence Technical School. And I'm pleased as one of the abutters, in terms of land size, would share the most significant property line, that their school committee has voted unanimously to support the proposal. This is just an aerial view of 5 Campanelli Drive. The boundaries are outlined in red. As you'll see to my most recent point, it's immediately adjacent to the technical school and River Road. As I said, the technical school has supported it, and you'll see the Heffron right-of-way, which provides direct access to the river, and it is my hope that as a result of this, that the town will have opened a door to recreational activities that otherwise the town has not been afforded in the past. Why 5 Campanelli Drive? It's an ideal location for the future of our municipal services and the need to have a modern-day facility. As I said, it is double the space we currently have, and it's located in an industrial zone, so the site will be functioning consistent with the current zoning, which is that of an industrial zone. We're moving out of a residential neighborhood. Anybody who saw last Sunday's Globe, Globe North, Andover's Town Yard was on the front page. And that article highlighted a lot of the issues we're having trying to operate this type of facility in a neighborhood. As this town meeting is so aware, there have been multiple studies that have demonstrated that this is, in fact, the best site. You can open a filing cabinet in the town manager's office and you'll see Town Yard Study 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, right up to as recently as several years ago. And then lastly, the current Town Yard site is too small for operational needs. And rebuilding on our current site will be 14% more expensive and still not to meet the needs of today, never mind the future. I think we've really evolved as a community. There was a time when having a municipal service facility on a rail line made a lot of sense. I'm not sure that that is any longer the right sense. We've seen the city of Newburyport flourish as a result of moving industrial uses out of their downtown. City of Portsmouth moved their town yard out of the downtown. And most recently, the town of Amesbury moved their facility out of the downtown. And you can go to Amesbury and see very quickly the positive effects it's had on the community. Very quickly, 2 shots of the existing conditions. The photograph on the left, you'll see residential neighborhood in our town yard. And then on the one to the right, you see this is the first introduction you get to Andover when you get off the commuter rail station. I think we can do a lot better, and that is really a factor as part of this proposal. The next slide is some of the operational considerations, or I should say restrictions, of the current site. On the left, we have a $200,000 piece of equipment that can't fit in the garage door at the current site. To the right, we have a bucket truck that we use for tree work that we had to knock the cinder blocks out of the back of the building to fit the bucket, so the bucket actually sits outside of the original structure. This is an aerial view of, to the left, the current site, and to the right, the new site. And you'll see all the gray shaded areas. Those are dwellings. And I think it does a good job at capturing how many residential abutters we have at the current site versus where we're proposing to move. So what is the plan for 5 Campanelli Drive beyond moving our site? This is going to be taken up in Article 32. But in Article 32, we'll seek design funding, which we'll get to, but I want to let you know it's coming. And then, if we can move to the next slide, what are the long-term benefits? Provide economic development in our downtown. Provide opportunities for family-oriented amenities. We've heard in every meeting we've had, I want to be able to go downtown and have an experience with my family in terms of access, places to spend time. We create connectivity to our commuter rail station, which currently doesn't exist. Infrastructure improvements. We all know the 5-way intersection. Every developer we've talked to, the state who we've talked to, they all said, we're here to help you find out a solution to that. It's an expansion of our commercial tax base. And that is the easiest way to mitigate residential property tax growth is by expanding our commercial tax base. Enhance recreational opportunities to the Shawshene River. I stood up at the Merrimack Valley Mayors and Managers meeting and said, this is going to be the year of our downtown in the river. We're moving out some of the dams, and I really think this will contribute to that. And then, like I said, it's a potential collaboration with the Greater Lawrence Technical School. This is a rendering of no place in particular, but it's part of the concept that I think we're going for. Mixed use. Through a community planning process, we'll decide exactly what we want for the future of our downtown. But when we compare that to what the implications are staying where they are, this slide shows it, I think, pretty well. Most of those opportunities I just outlined go away. Our infrastructure needs still there, but we're going to be funding the improvement. I don't think anybody in this room would debate that there's a need to fix that, but there's so much potential for our community that does go away if we maintain our current facility. And lastly, I'm pleased to report that the Article 31, is unanimously supported by the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, the Economic Development Council, and the Greater Lawrence Technical High School. So, thank you, Madam Moderator.
Much. Thank you. Mrs. O'Donoghue, would you like to give a report, other than it was just given, but is there more that you want to add for the...
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The acquisition of 5 Campanelli Drive is the first part of a comprehensive and well-thought-out solution toward building a municipal services facility. The proposed location meets the town's long-term needs with no adverse impact to our residential neighbourhoods. Rebuilding at the current location is not a viable option. This project has been deferred for many, many years, and we finally have an opportunity to move the project forward. It is a well-thought-out and fiscally responsible plan that will involve the project being financed within the existing budget. There will be no need for an override. The land acquisition will be funded with cash, and thus no borrowing will be necessary. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
So the Board of Selectmen recommends approval?
The Board of Selectmen unanimously recommends approval of Article, which one am I? 31.
Article 31. Thank you. The Finance Committee report, please, Ms. Cruz.
Yes, thank you. The Finance Committee unanimously recommends approval of this article. The town's population has grown by over 50% since the existing town yard was built over 50 years ago. So the Finance Committee agrees that a larger facility is needed. Currently, the town yard functions are spread over a few different locations in town, and the Finance Committee thinks a consolidated town yard, which requires a larger area of land, such as this land at Campanelli Drive, will bring efficiencies to the services delivered. 4 years ago, town meeting considered purchasing this property at 5 Campanelli Drive. 3 items make this purchase more attractive now than it was then. First, the $2.25 million purchase price for this land is lower by $1.25 million than it was several years ago. Second, the town area that includes the town yard was rezoned at last year's town meeting to allow additional uses. This rezoning is expected to bring a higher sale price for the current town yard land, and the money from that sale price can be used to offset the cost of the new town yard. And third, the Finance Committee considered the overall funding plan, both for purchasing the Campanelli Drive land and also for designing and building the new town yard. The Finance Committee considers it a solid plan. The land and the building can be done without a debt exclusion vote. As designing and building the new town yard is not part of this article, I won't go into more detail about that now, but I do want to discuss the funding of this article's land purchase in a little more detail. This article proposes to purchase the Campanelli land using free cash, which will not raise taxes, but it will lower free cash. The Finance Committee has strong opinions on how free cash should be spent. The town's fiscal reserves consist of unspent money in free cash combined with the money in our general stabilization fund. The town has a policy to maintain these fiscal reserves within a target range. So even with approval of this article, this $2.25 million in this article, from free cash and the other free cash articles being brought to this town meeting, we will still be well within that target range for the free cash fiscal policy. So that test is passed. Also, the Finance Committee thinks free cash should only be spent on one-time projects and not on ongoing operating expenses. As this is a one-time purchase of land, using free cash to buy it, it passes that test also. So in summary, the Finance Committee thinks that the purchase of this piece of land will enable a larger, more efficient town yard, and that the funding plan is a good one. So we unanimously recommend approval.
Thank you. Planning Board, please, Mr. Bergeron. Is that a point of order, or can I finish the committee reports? Okay, let me just finish the committee reports, and then I'll be happy to get to your questions. Is that all right? Mr. Bergeron?
This on? I'm Austin Simcoe. I'm a member of the Planning Board. I'm speaking for
Go right
Mr.
ahead.
Bergeron. The Planning Board strongly recommends approval of this article as part of a plan to move the Municipal Services Facility, the town yard, from its current location downtown to a new location on Campanelli Drive. As has been explained, this Article 31 provides for the acquisition of 5 Campanelli Drive, and subsequent articles to be considered relate to the funding of the design and build components of the plan. While the Planning Board makes no recommendation as to the financial aspects of the plan, we do strongly support this article for the following reasons. The first is that moving the town yard out of its current location downtown allows us to maximize prime economic development real estate in the downtown area. This makes sense because it's consistent with the 2012 master plan. It would create jobs and it would generate economic activity. Second, by providing economic development to the town yard area, with its close proximity to the commuter rail station, we would be enhancing the commuter rail experience for Andover residents, but also for visitors alike. And third, this plan provides for and facilitates the construction of a state-of-the-art facility that would allow the department to consolidate its operations under one roof, to better protect its equipment from the elements, and it would provide office space for town employees. Ultimately, we view this article as being economically beneficial, operationally efficient, collectively empowering, and very much long overdue, and so we urge approval of our Article 31. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, here's how we're going to work the discussion on this. I've got 2 point of order or question mics only. They're not for speech. They're not for editorial comment. If you have a specific question, I'm happy to take those. We have a pro mic down here, a con mic up there, a pro mic up here, and a con mic down here, okay? Does everybody understand? If you could possibly get to whatever side, a mic that reflects your process, then we can go from there. Yes, ma'am, go right ahead. You've been waiting the longest. Wait, hold on one second. Can we have number 4 up, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Lana Connors. My first question is,
Could you give us your address, please?
63 Memorial Circle.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
I work at 6 Campanelli Drive, and I want to know how is that plan going to affect 6 Campanelli Drive?
So thank you, if I may, thank you for the question. We had an excellent exchange with the general manager of 6 Campanelli Drive today about how we can mitigate any potential impact there. And one of the things we're looking at is where's the appropriate way to access the site and whatnot. And that's all answers that will avail themselves through a design process. But I can tell you that everybody at 6 Campanelli Drive will be a big part of this discussion as we go through what is going to be a very open public community design process.
So safety for both the guests that I work with as well as equipment and whatever else is going to be stored there is going to be heavily involved in the planning process?
Absolutely, and safety will be our number one concern throughout this whole process.
Okay.
Okay. So let me start up here. Is it a point of order or just a question? Point of order. Go ahead.
I just question, I know you don't like to take...
If it's a point of order, I'll be
It is a
fine.
point of order.
Go right ahead.
I know you don't like to take questions out of order, but number 33, it asks the government of the state or the state government to make some amendments so that we can do this. Does it affect, if that 33 goes down, is 1 and 2 good?
It does not affect the purchase of the property. We can purchase the property without 31 or 32. And
So
that's all we're going to talk about.
33 stands alone, yes or
Yes.
no, that
Yes.
still can go through?
Yes, thank you. Go right ahead here, please, pro. Oh, go right ahead. Could I have the hand mic on, please? The hand mic, right here, down front. Is there a number on it? There's not a number on your mic? Stand up and show him the mic, please. There you go.
Thank you. Don Robb, 36 York Street. I really want to congratulate the town manager and the Board of Selectmen for coming up with a solution that we have been looking for well over 20 years in this town. We've looked everywhere. We've looked all around the town in every nook and cranny, and 5 Campanelli Drive turns out to be the ideal place. And finally, after all this time, we're going to do it. So I think this is a wonderful project. I think it's been well developed, well talked through. I was particularly interested in Article 28 when we voted to buy two new pieces of equipment for the Municipal Services Department. Now we'll be able to put them somewhere so they won't have to leave them outside as some of our equipment is today. So I think this is a benefit for the entire town. It gives us an opportunity to plan carefully for today's needs rather than try to fix an injured building or site of buildings that haven't worked for the last 20 years, that are more than 50 years old. So I would strongly urge support for this article. Thank you.
Up here, please. I'll get to your question in a minute. Go ahead. 3
Yes,
minutes.
thank you, Madam Moderator. My name is Greg Sabaski, 15 Muirfield Circle. My wife and I have lived in Andover for 25 years now and raised 3 daughters here and have been involved in a number of committees and boards in the town. So I have a real interest in the sustainability of Andover, both financially and culturally and educationally, and this is why I'm speaking tonight. I also had the privilege of actually working in Andover for 23 of those 25 years, first with Hewlett-Packard and then at Philips Electronics out on River Road, where my last role was as chairman of our North American business, and now I'm running an education company in Burlington. So I think I've got a good perspective on what attributes the town needs to stay competitive as a place for companies to locate and for their employees to live, and I think those are both important points I want to make tonight. Most companies are facing a pretty big wave of retirements and attrition from our employee workforce out of the baby boomer generation, and we need to fill critical jobs with new employees, many of whom in this 25 to 34-year-old age group, which many of us are called millennials. In fact, I think our town manager and our assistant town manager both fit in that group. Age is 25 to 34. And we had done quite a bit of research at Philips prior to my departure and understand that many of these millennials want to live and work in places where they don't have to drive. They don't want to own cars. They'd rather rent than buy and have access to their friends and, most importantly, to the amenities that the town manager talked about. And although years ago, when we located Hewlett-Packard in Andover, the distant suburbs used to be attractive, so people could drive to those office parks on interchanges, but that's no longer true. And the fact that real estate cost here is less expensive doesn't really matter anymore. Acquisition of talent trumps occupancy or real estate cost every time, and that's becoming an increasingly difficult war for talent. And so Andover has challenges compared to Boston or to the suburbs along or within Route 95. And so with a competitive disadvantage, we've got to work harder to keep up and attract jobs and employees to Andover over the long run. And I think to be able to do that, this town yard fills many of those requirements. The movement of the town yard, along with the double tracking that has recently been done for the trains, get to my finish, opens up a large area for commercial and residential development, not just for seniors, but for these millennials and potentially for places and businesses to locate. We've got to improve the tax base, as Mr. Stump pointed out. 7 out of 20 years, we've exceeded $2 million in tax growth. We need to do that every year. 20 out of 20 years looking forward if we're going to cover this deep deficit we have in the OPEB liability. So I encourage you to vote for this article. The town manager's come up with a very creative and efficient approach, and I encourage your support. Thank you.
Do you have a question here? Number 4, please.
Hello. All right, my question is, what are they going to do?
Can you tell me who you are first?
Donna Ballou on North Main Street.
Thank you, Donna.
And my question is, if we do this move to the new town yard, what are they going to do with the previous town yard property?
Go ahead.
Thank you for your question. So what we did over the winter was we issued a non-binding solicitation to the development community just to see what type of interest there was in our town yard at its existing site at 11 Lewis Street, and then maybe get ideas that we haven't considered, things we may want or things we may not want. So what the recommendation would be is that through that process, discussing with the community through a whole design guideline process, figuring out what we want there in the heart of our community, and then proceed to tailoring a binding solicitation that is reflective of that community process. So at this point, there's not a proposal to move any other town operational activities there, but rather proceed with the sale or the potential lease of the land and bring to downtown Andover a lot of the amenity type things that we talked about in the Article 31 deliberations.
So you're going to try and sell or lease the land if we do the move?
Correct. Ultimately, that will be a decision of the community, but the proposal as it's based today is that it would be either a sale or a lease, correct.
So if someone leases or buys it, what are the stipulations, what they can put there? Anything they want, or is there still stipulations what they can put?
So they would have to, it's a great question, it'd have to be consistent with the zoning bylaw. So there is an applicable zoning bylaw that covers that site right now. But what we're able to do as part of the zoning amendment that this town meeting approved last year is develop design guidelines that are reflective of exactly what we want there. And that's a community process that I expect to begin this summer, providing town meeting votes favorable action this evening, and really have a dialogue of how all of our pieces of downtown work together and are consistent with how we want to have our downtown look for the next many decades.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to remind you that Article 31, we're talking about the purchase of land at Campanelli Drive. That's what's before us. I understand the implications are all over the boards, but so if you could please address your remarks to the purchase of the Campanelli Drive land. Sir, you've been waiting for a while for questions, and then I'll come down here for the number 1 mic. Number 3 mic, please. Go ahead, sir.
Peter Robertson of 30 Railroad Street.
Thank you, Peter.
I was wondering, I know I spoke to someone before the town meeting outside, and they said that environmental considerations are being taken into consideration, but I didn't really get a sense of what those were, and I saw the Conservation Commission has endorsed this as well. I was wondering if you could maybe say if you have a plan in place to protect the water from runoff from the salt and oil, and also any sort of wildlife that's in that area, because it's West Andover, and West Andover does have.
Sure. So the total project cost is trying to come up with an estimate was reflective of all those points you just mentioned, and we are proposing to use best practices in terms of salt storage, fuel that's not in the ground but above the ground, and protect the river and all the associated wetlands. So it's been a huge component of the discussion, and it's going to continue to be a priority if we're able to proceed with the design.
Madam Moderator, I move the question.
Let me have a couple more people speak. Would you concede to that, please? Let a few more people speak.
No disrespect on the question. I read the program since 2004.
I understand. There are some who haven't. Go right ahead. Number 1. Now, I'm going to remember that the next time you stand up, okay? Go
Hello?
ahead.
Melissa Danish, 16 Bradley Road. I'm here speaking in support of the article. As has been stated, this is a great opportunity for the town, for its residents. Putting this article together has shown collaboration amongst so many different groups and stakeholders, citizens, seniors, students, local businesses, a variety of committees, ad hoc groups, cultural organizations, and who knew so many different people would be so excited about moving municipal facilities, but it goes to show you that this really is, it's something that people have thought about, and it's been very carefully planned, and this is our chance to do this right. And it is about purchasing the new site and moving facilities there and making it happen the right way and centralizing what we need to have done. But obviously it has all sorts of positive ramifications, and it allows the town to continue to have its residents involved. As they've done in just putting this article together, it's a great springboard for what happens next with the resulting site.
Terrific. Thank you. If you have nothing new to add, I would ask you not to repeat what's been said, but if you have something new to add, go right ahead, Mr. Hess.
Right here. Thank you, Madam Moderator, and good evening. My name is John Hess, 145 Chestnut Street. I support Article 31 because it is an important first step for the future of Andover. I had several items that I'm going to skip as the moderator has requested, but I wanted to point out that this redevelopment will provide an opportunity for additional links between Main Street and the Shawshene River. The river is a hidden resource. This article allows us to improve access to the use of the river. As you may know, I am very active in Avis and other open space and recreation efforts in town. Trails in this part of town are being discussed as part of the Shawshene River Greenway. The Shawshene River Greenway is already in place between Ballard Vale and the St. Augustine Cemetery. You may have read in the newspaper that just 2 weeks ago, the town and Avis dedicated an additional section of the Shawshene River Greenway near the Tewksbury border. Our goal is to be able to walk the entire length of the river between the Tewksbury and Lawrence borders. The purchase of the Campanelli Drive property will also enhance our ability to access the Merrimack River. The town owns land along the river, but we don't have currently access to that land. Purchase of that property will give us another point of entry to the Merrimack River Trail system. Please join me in supporting Article 31 so that we can improve access to the Merrimack River and so that the Shawshene Riverfront can once again become a focus for recreation and trails. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Go right ahead, quickly.
Marilyn Fitzgerald, 25 Washington Avenue. I am the elected representative from this town to the Greater Lawrence Technical School District Committee. We voted unanimously to not only offer no opposition to this, but since we are the longest abutter in area to it, Heffron Way is already used by us as our cross-country course, and we look forward to the continued collaboration with the town, and we support this totally. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are you ready to vote? Do you have a question that hasn't been answered? Yes. Could I have a show of hands if you would like to end discussion? Okay. Thank you very much. If you'd all have a seat, we'll take a vote. This requires a 2/3 vote. And I would like to try to do it with a show of hands. All those in favor, please raise one hand. I don't think there's any question. Those opposed? Thank you. The ayes have it overwhelmingly. Article 32, please. Mrs. O'Donoghue.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move to appropriate and raise by taxation the sum of $900,000 for the purpose of paying for the design and engineering services for a new municipal services facility, including any other costs incidental and related thereto.
Article 32, has been moved and seconded. Mrs. O'Donoghue, the report from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen approve Article 32.
Thank you. Mrs. Cruz, Finance Committee report?
Yes, the Finance Committee unanimously recommends approval of this article. The $900,000 in this article will be used to fund design plans for the new town yard to be built at Campanelli Drive. The town has spent money in the past to produce schematics for potential layouts at Campanelli. These previous plans looked at building layouts, looked at setbacks, looked at turning radiuses for large trucks, and so on, to make sure that the Campanelli site had sufficient dry, flat land. Those plans can be used as a starting point for the design plans in this article, but these designs will go into much more detail. These design plans will culminate in construction documents which will cover details such as roofing and flashing, types of ceiling, types of flooring, plumbing, fire protection, electrical, and so on. This level of detail is needed by people who are bidding on the project so they can propose a firm bid. This design money will also cover, among other things, obtaining independent cost estimates, and it will cover the permitting process needed to obtain the necessary approvals for building the new town yard. As careful design plans are important to ensure a successful project, the Finance Committee recommends approval of this article.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor of Article 32, please raise one hand. Those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Article 33. Please, Mrs. O'Donoghue.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I move to approve Article 33 as printed in the warrant.
Article 33 has been moved and seconded. Selectmen's report, please.
Yes, thank you. This article creates a mechanism that would allow any proceeds from the sale of the current town yard on Lewis Street to be used to reduce the debt for the proposed municipal services facility. It is a truly unique circumstance to be able to fund part of the new facility with proceeds from the old one. The Board of Selectmen unanimously supports Article 33.
Finance Committee report, please, Mrs. Cruz.
The Finance Committee unanimously recommends approval of this article. So this article requests that the state legislature allow Andover to create a mitigation fund into which the town can store specific revenue sources that will be used to pay down the borrowing costs related to building a new town yard at Campanelli Drive. So the main goal of this article is to petition the legislature to create the Municipal Services Facility Mitigation Fund. But this article also names some potential revenue sources that may be moved into the mitigation fund. Note that it does not require that all these revenue sources be moved in. So the Finance Committee is supportive of 2 of the revenue sources and has concerns about the 3rd one. Of the revenue sources suggested in this article that could be moved into the fund, the Finance Committee is particularly supportive of using the proceeds from the sale or lease of the current town yard site. Also, once we have sold the current town yard, there will be permitting fees associated with any new development that will be built there. The Finance Committee supports using the permitting fees to offset the costs of the new town yard. However, the Finance Committee is generally not in favor of using property tax revenues generated by any new development at the current site to pay off the debt associated with the new town yard facility. Any new development that generates new taxes is also going to generate new demand for services, and the property taxes may be needed to cover those services. Therefore, the Finance Committee cautions that careful evaluation is needed before using property tax revenues from redevelopment to offset the building of the new town yard site. So again, this article's main goal is to create the mitigation fund. The mitigation fund is an important vehicle that can be used to capture the proceeds from the sale of the land and the permitting fees, which can be used to offset the costs of the town yard project. The Finance Committee recommends approval of this article.
Yes, sir. Up there on mic number 5.
Good evening, Ms. Moderator. Neil Senior, 14 Alderbrook Road.
Yes, Neil.
First, I'd like to say thank you to all of you on the stage today that served this fantastic town of Andover. Really much appreciated. This is more of a general question. I wanted to ask sort of a mix of those 3 articles, but I'd also voice my support for this. I think this is the greatest thing that this town could do. Is there a general estimation to what the value of that property on Lewis Street would be from a sale, and then an expected time frame when that would be brought into a mitigation fund?
Thank you for the question. So we've estimated that proceeds from sale or lease could mitigate the total cost of the project anywhere from 25% to 40%, depending on the market value at the time. So we've been hesitant to commit to an actual number until we have a better idea of how we're going to proceed there. With regard to time frame, if we're able to proceed with the design process, which will take about 6 months, and then town meeting appropriates funds for construction, we expect that actual construction will take as many as 18 months. So we're probably 2 to 2.5 years away from actually moving forward with any kind of sale or lease of that parcel.
Thank you very much.
Question? Question on mic number 3.
Perry Raffi, 13 Center Street. I was here trying to adjust the mic on the last article when it just flew by. I do have a question. It will not affect the vote. I am not requesting a revote, but I do have a question, a two-part question.
Go ahead.
$900,000, are we, for design and engineering, are we certain that is enough money for this facility, and how many square feet of building is it?
So the facility is, as it's current estimated, approximately 44,000 square feet. That $900,000 has been based on what similar type facilities have cost to design. So we're very confident with that number at this point.
I should also identify myself as a member of the Ballardvale Fire Station Committee. And we went so far in a dozen meetings as getting to the point of an architect. The Ballardvale Fire Station addition is 2,000.
Sir, I can't let you go back on that. We've got to move the meeting forward.
Oh.
Thank you. Do you have a comment up there, sir? Mic number 5.
Hi, my name's Christian Gaden from 95 Lowell Street. I have a question about the revenue source. I am in support of this project, but have the potential cleanup costs of a 50-year industrial site been calculated as to offsetting the cost of this, any kind of potential gains on the sale of the property?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. My question is about the cleanup costs or potential cleanup costs of the sale of the existing property, and is that calculated in terms of how it affects the overall budget?
Sure. So to that point, we've done an initial testing of the site, and we've disclosed the findings of that. And I don't want anybody to think that they're extraordinary, but we've disclosed the findings of that study and made that study available to any developer who could be interested in the parcel. And the expectation at this point is that the obligation of remediating any environmental issues will be transferred to a developer as part of a sale.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Question? Number 3, Mike.
Hi, Paul Kelly, 4 Bateson Drive.
Yes, Paul.
I guess I'm wondering why we would consider selling such a valuable piece of land. There's other town properties around it, the upcoming Mill District development. Why would we be so quick to sell that? I think that property's a diamond in the rough.
Certainly something we're looking to discuss, and there's been a lot of talk about sale versus lease, and if there's a section of it that should be reserved for the town. And those are discussions we're all going to have. I just wanted to be able to proceed with the establishment of the mitigation fund. In the event that we do go in that direction, we'll have the mechanisms in place to mitigate impacts.
Okay, how would the citizens keep abreast of that sale as opposed to lease?
So we're going to have a very public design guideline phase over the next several months, and very similar to this project, we will advertise that and make sure that the residents and those who want to participate in the deliberations and discussions know about the meetings.
Is there already a group in place that is discussing that piece of property?
Say that again.
Is there already a group in place that is discussing that piece of property, a formed group now?
There's nothing formally been established at this time.
Okay, I'll keep posted on it then. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
Yes, the gentleman asked about the public process for selling that property. We would need to come back to the town meeting for a vote if we were to sell that, so it's obviously going to be a very public process.
Yes, sir. Last one to speak here.
Thank you, ma'am. Steve Lasoskis, 2 Blanchard Street. Wholeheartedly support the entire project, but I have a question with regard to FinCom's recommendation. Note that Article 33 says the 3 sources of revenue as identified by Finance Committee may be placed in the account, but Finance Committee had a caution with regard to the 3rd of the 3 revenue sources, that being ongoing tax revenue. And I'm just wondering, with that caution, is Finance Committee's recommendation that the Board of Selectmen or the town, in applying that permissiveness, not use the tax revenue, or are you suggesting some form of that we should be considering an amendment to this to exclude that 3rd revenue source entirely?
So I don't think if we wanted an amendment, we would offer the amendment. This article, if we approve it, just gives permission to go to the state legislature and ask for permission to make a mitigation fund. It's a home rule petition, and that's all voting for this article will do, is give us permission to make the fund. So what we're doing is essentially saying to, bringing it to people's attention that we need to, before we just put say we're going to put property taxes in there, we really have to stop and look at the financial consequences, look at what's being built, look at what the demand for services would be. That's all. But this article does not approve does not mandate that we put those types of funding into this mitigation fund. It merely allows us to create the fund.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor, I need a count because it's an appeal to the state for a home rule to establish this account. I need an actual count. So all those in favor of Article 33, please stand. I'm sorry. Just bear with us a little longer, please. Thank you.
Please look forward, look at your counters and seat so he can count behind you. The counters
If
in the
you've been
center on the
counted,
left.
please sit down.
Look for your counter, look at him, and then sit when he counts you.
You're okay, guys? On stage, you're set. Please do not leave in case someone challenges the vote or
You're
there's a problem
confusing
with
the count.
vote.
Please stand and then sit so he can count you. You'll be home in 5 minutes.
Please stay through this vote, please. So I don't have to call you out by name as you're sneaking out.
Okay, section 1, please. 36 in section 1. Section 2.
74, 74.
74. Section 3.
Section 3, 13, 1, 3.
Say that section 3 number again.
13, 1, 3.
1, 3, 13. Section 4.
Section 4, 83, 83.
83, 83. Section 5, please.
Section 5, 75.
75. Section 6.
Section 6 is 84, 84.
84. Section 7.
Section 7, 68, 68.
68. Section 8. Are there any?
Section 8, 3.
There are 3. They're in the lobby. 2. 2 in the lobby. And on the stage, please.
23, 23.
23.
All those opposed, please stand. Anybody opposed? Anybody opposed?
I think you got it. Are there
Okay,
anybody?
Those voting in the affirmative were 461. Those in the negative are 0. The motion carries. Let me say